Kamalnath will hold a meeting with his MLAs at 11 o'clock today. The meeting will be held at the house of Minister Balasaheb Thorat. So that's the latest news coming in, Sujata. Very clear that in the Maharashtra political jungle, each party is on its own. On one hand, we have Sharad Pawar, the so-called troubleshooter of the Mahavikas Aghadi, who is going to meet his MLAs. Kamalnath, on the other, meeting the Congress MLAs. The idea, it seems as of now, ostensibly by each party and these top leaders, is to at least ensure that they are able to keep their flock together to begin with. Okay, we've lost that line with Sujata. We have, of course, Priya Sehgal, who's been live with us. Priya, I'm sure you've been listening to each and every update which has been coming in. Latest update coming in, Kamalnath is going to meet, ma'am, the Congress MLA. Very, very clear that in the political jungle that Maharashtra has become right now, each party is on its own. Whether this government stays or falls, we'll have to wait and watch. But NCP Congress at least trying to ensure that their flock stays together.
Absolutely, and you couldn't have summed it better. It is a political jungle where each party has to now look out for itself. They know that this government has on a short-term notice. Notice has been served on the Uddhav Thackeray government. Of course, what remains to be seen is the kind of deal. We are going to see some sort of a Sena alliance with the BJP. Will Sharad Pawar also jump ship because he has done business? He has not done business with the BJP, but he has a very good equation with Narendra Modi, and the unspoken buzz in the party is that he would want his daughter accommodated in the central cabinet. So what will Sharad Pawar do next is also interesting. Kamalnath going there as a troubleshooter shows, again, the side note on Congress politics. In times of trouble, the Congress looks to its old guard. They are the ones they trust to do damage control. It could have sent any of the new faces in Rahul's team for this, but they knew that if someone has it under control, it's either Kamalnath or Ashok Gehlot or someone with experience. So clearly Kamalnath being sent there is a vote for the old guard. Congress MLAs itself are worth watching, because during this during this MLC vote, the Congress also did cross voting, because the first preference candidate did not get it, the second preference candidate got it. Congress did also, there was cross voting in the Rajya Sabha elections also from the Sena side. So there have been, the signals have been sent out earlier also that all is not well in this Maharashtra Vikas Aghadi government, but the leadership sought to ignore it. We are also told that Sharad Pawar, in fact, has been warning Uddhav Thackeray about his inaccessibility, about the hold that Aditya Thackeray and Uddhav Thackeray have, and where the rest of the Sena doesn't feel as if they are part of the government or part of the leadership stakes. There's been a huge lot of resentment within the Sena, and Eknath Shinde has tapped into that. He himself was feeling sidelined and marginalized under this new setup. He did not want this alliance with the NCP and Congress. He's always been saying that the cultural and the ethos and the ideology of the Sena lies with the BJP and not with these other parties. So now he's finally had enough. They should have seen the signs. They should have got him more involved in government and let him play a more proactive role. We are told that when he was chairing meetings, say, of the metro works, Aditya Thackeray used to come in and start talking environment and hijack the meeting. Aditya Thackeray had no locus standi to be in those meetings. So clearly the father and son, or rather the son, because the father has been ill, he had COVID, he had a spinal problem. So he's been laid up most of the time. It's Aditya Thackeray running the government de facto. That has also not gone on well.
All right. And, ma'am, you've put this in perspective for us, and you've led me to my next question as well. A lot of shortcomings as far as the Sena itself is also concerned. It looks like that Uddhav Thackeray has been caught napping today. He's trying to save his government. Uddhav camp has gone into a huddle. At least 30 to 35 MLAs, if I'm correct, can clearly be seen in the pictures of these rebel MLAs who are currently cooling their heels in Guwahati. Very clearly, there were telltale signs, as you were mentioning, the Rajya Sabha polls, the MLC polls, cross-voting which had happened, which were completely ignored by the top brass of the Sena, and perhaps that's one of the biggest reasons why Sena is literally at the verge of a split.
Sena is split right down the middle. As you mentioned in your opening address, the anti-defection law doesn't apply. They have enough numbers to overcome even that hurdle. So it shows how big the resentment is, how big a hurdle is, because Eknath Shinde himself is not such a tall leader to take on the Thackeray's. Obviously, there's been a huge resentment that he has been able to tap into. And, there have been two things. One, as I said earlier, one is this unnatural tie-up with the NCP and the Congress. And second, of course, the inaccessibility of Uddhav Thackeray. Thackeray. He wanted to foist his son onto the Sena, but it was done in a very swift manner. It was not done in an organic way at all. I mean, what right, a lot of Sena MLAs are saying, what right does Aditya Thackeray have to come and address meetings, hijack meetings, dictate events? Sanjay Raut was the only point of contact to Uddhav Thackeray. You know, where are the party loyalists? If Eknath Shinde could have gone, met Uddhav Thackeray, maybe he would have been more reassured of things, of his place within the Shiv Sena. But all that was not happening. Meanwhile, you know, we also have that old grudge. I always say politics is also personal. So there is that revenge politics where, if you remember that midnight government that was fallen with Ajit Pawar, with the Fadnavis being the chief minister, and the rug was pulled from under that the very next day. Amit Shah has not forgotten that, and neither, I guess, has Devendra Fadnavis. First chance to strike back, they've struck. You know, so there is, you know, you need that jazbat, that personal thing to spur you on, your politics on also. And BJP has a lot of that. They treat every state very important, but Maharashtra, the financial capital of the country, next to, you know, it has Nagpur, it is the RSS guard. Why would they let that state go?
Yeah, and certainly, and you know, you're speaking about the BJP strategy. End of the day, everyone will have to agree. Credit has to be given where it's due. The BJP acted in an extremely nimble-footed and swift manner. The reports coming in today, or at least I read in the newspapers today, that, you know, Eknath Shinde had this heated argument with Aditya Thackeray, some past instances which you are also mentioning. So clearly, there was a simmering tension and anger, and it's very obvious that the BJP has very deftly and, of course, in the Chanakya Niti, if I could call it that sort of way in which the BJP functions, has been able really to tap in on this anger very dexterously, ma'am, isn't it?
This is how the BJP, you know, when the focus is elsewhere, they strike elsewhere. You know, they're spread all over. They're firefighting on Agnipath. They're deciding the next presidential candidate. They're getting MLCs elected, and then they are destabilizing a government. You know, so in that sense, the BJP has spread all over. It has enough people, lieutenants all over the place. Unlike the Congress, which is still centered around Rahul Gandhi. All the Congress really was busy doing was the ED case against Rahul Gandhi, and a bit towards the last few days, the Agnipath protests. Otherwise, they've been just very centered around one thing. The alliance also, to be fair to the Congress, they were not really the main players over there. It's between Uddhav Thackeray and Sharad Pawar, which is where I'm a little perplexed at Sharad Pawar's role. You know, we all saw that press conference yesterday where he was very nonchalant. He said, "Hota hai, cross-voting happens," or something to that effect. I mean, we all know that Sharad Pawar was also running the government. You know, the kind of say he had over this government, he won't have in a BJP government. Let's say he does business with the BJP. They're not going to let him call the shots. They're not going to let him have the home minister of his choice. Here he is literally running the show. You know, Uddhav Thackeray never said no to him. If Sharad Pawar says, "I've been warning Uddhav Thackeray that things are not all well, resentment is there," it's because Sharad Pawar, in his role as a mentor, could send these warning signals, and he was the Karta Dharta of this Maharashtra Vikas Aghadi, which he won't. So he'll also lose a lot of relevance if if this government falls, and even if he ties up with the BJP. So Pawar's role, you know, I'm still a bit perplexed about in all this.
Well, certainly. And do you think that in the coming days, Sharad Pawar could play a major role, ma'am, considering he's rather considered, or has been considered for a long time, the so-called troubleshooter of the Mahavikas Aghadi? Or is it just too late in the day for the Mahavikas Aghadi? What's your assessment of the situation, ma'am?
Too late in the day for Maharashtra Vikas Aghadi, because also these MLAs, now they've gone to Assam, you know, the Eknath Shinde gang, and there they are under the watchful eye of Hemanta Biswa Sarma. I mean, you cannot beat him in the politics of resort, on politics of, finding the numbers where no one else can find. So Hemanta being there is a very tough call for, he even, if you remember, in the Meghalaya elections, Kamalnath was sent when the Congress had a majority but not all the numbers. Kamalnath was rushed to do damage control, but before his plane landed, Hemanta Biswa Sarma had already gone and formed the government. So Hemanta there in Assam is going to be a big force to reckon with. He also has contacts with Congress MLAs in Assam. That's what the Congress should be worried about. So I don't see, to answer your question, I don't have much hope for the Maharashtra Vikas Aghadi. I think, you know, what you said earlier, that maybe Uddhav Thackeray would in the end resign tomorrow. That's what I think we are expecting also. Because resentment against Uddhav Thackeray, his health is also a major role, that he doesn't play an active role. Nobody's going to take Aditya Thackeray seriously. Let's just team up with Devendra Fadnavis. Maybe Eknath Shinde gets to be deputy CM. Otherwise, you know, if they do a deal with the Thackeray's, then Aditya Thackeray will get to be deputy CM. Why will Eknath Shinde go about all this to promote Aditya Thackeray?
Yeah, so, and if you look at the numbers, ma'am, with the pictures, the latest visuals which are coming in, 35 MLAs at least now it looks like with Eknath Shinde. That itself is a big number. Sena split down the middle, as you rightly said. You spoke of two aspects. One, of course, of Sena, and second of Congress. Let's talk of the Congress first. What do you think? It's certainly this entire political hullabaloo and drama is a huge personal embarrassment for Uddhav Thackeray, Aditya Thackeray, the Thackeray family and Shiv Sena. But what does it mean for the Congress, considering, ma'am, the Congress's footprint has also been shrinking election after election? A Congress has been, losing state after state. It's only present in the government in a handful of states, and it looks like Maharashtra is also going to slip away from the Congress's hands very soon.
Yeah, currently it has two chief ministers, and it's part of the Jharkhand government and this Maharashtra government, if I'm not wrong. I can't offhand think of another state. But yes, what you said, here there is a delicious bit of irony for Rahul Gandhi. He's always been against this alliance. He's been saying it's an unnatural alliance. He did not want the Congress to be part of it. Here the Congress MLAs put their foot down and said, we fought an election, now we want the spoils of office. We're not here just to fight elections and sit in opposition. So here Rahul Gandhi was overruled by the rest of the party, and in a way he has been proved right, but it's not a right he would want, because it shows that the Congress is slowly losing power, as you said, on yet another state. Congress MLAs will happily go with whoever's in power. They have now realized that the party, there is no leader in the Congress, there is no face of the Congress in Maharashtra. Early on at least, and this is a state which has so many former chief ministers. There was Sushil Kumar Shinde, Deshmukh, there was so many leaders. Sharad Pawar himself is from Maharashtra, A.K. Antole. So Maharashtra has always been producing tall leaders, but of now there is a drought of leadership even in Maharashtra, as in most other states, for the Congress. So they don't have a leader to hold the flock together. They don't have a strong PCC chief. It will take me a while to even figure out who the current PCC chief is. The Congress is, in fact, I was told the day of the Rajya Sabha vote, the General Secretary in charge of Maharashtra, K.C. Venugopal, rushed back in the morning before the vote was even finished. The PCC chief, I think his name is Patil, Rajni Patil, Raghav Patil, some Patil. He himself rushed off for his wife's birthday. That's the buzz on social media. He didn't stay till the voting was finished. So if this is what's happening, you guys are not there till the bitter end, you're not watching over your flock carefully, then it shows your commitment at the ground level. So Congress MLAs will leave. They will go with whoever offers them perks of office. The question is, does the BJP and the Sena breakaway group need the Congress MLAs? Because here Sharad Pawar will also. I think now the rush will be to see who goes and quickly supports this new government that's going to be formed, rather than,
it looks,
the old one safe.
Well, certainly it does look like that there is hardly any chance for the Sena. The number games, of course, very, very tilted against the Sena. But if we speak of, ma'am, the Sena's future, let's say today the government falls and Eknath Shinde, whether he forms his own party, whether he joins the BJP or supports the BJP from outside, if at all, this is, of course, this question is based on an assumption that he has the support of 37 to 40 MLAs and he's able to escape the anti-defection law. What happens of the Sena in the future? 35 to 40 out of 55 MLAs are rebelling against the top leadership. Sena split down in the middle. We already have another faction which was formed by Raj Thackeray, even though it's not done very well. But this type of a split with a large number of MLAs moving away from the Shiv Sena, certainly a huge setback, not just a setback, puts a question mark, would you agree, on the entire future of Shiv Sena?
No, absolutely. In fact, as you correctly said, now, or rather, Eknath has been saying that, he is the new Sena. He's saying, I'm still committed to the Sena ideology, to Bal Thackre's ideology. So perhaps he's going to wrest control and he will form his own breakaway group and call it something new Sena, in that sense. Yeah. Uddhav Thackeray has already kind of been taking a back seat, really. His heart was not so much into the government part in that sense. People say his wife was calling all the shots, and Aditya, she was very keen to promote Aditya Thackeray in the chief minister's chair sooner rather than later. So the future of Aditya Thackeray is something, I guess, one would have to debate and see where he is headed. Uddhav Thackeray, I guess, would not mind really being in this sort of mentor role, take a back seat. The future is for Aditya Thackeray. All this was being done for him. So where will he go now is the question. Does he have it in him to even hold on to the rump of the party and again bring it back to the old glory that it was? One doesn't know. He's a bright guy. He's very smart. He's a new new age politician. The concerns he raises, environment and all, are all very credible and progressive concerns. But how do they work well on the ground is something we don't know. We'll have to wait and watch in that sense. And does he have it in him to actually do the footwork, the on-ground presence, the rallies, all that makes a party, makes the presence of the party and enthuses people to make it join. He's been remodeling the Sena. He's been trying to make it a progressive new age party. But now he needs to hold on to his flock before he actually tries the remodeling.
And it doesn't look like it has worked, considering if you have 35 MLAs at a minimum who are rebelling against the Sena and who are very clearly seen cooling their heels off in a hotel in Guwahati, being guarded or under the watchful eye of the BJP Assam Chief Minister Himanta Biswa Sarma.
For more such videos, subscribe to the NewsX YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.